There should be a price on carbon of at least $50 a ton, and perhaps higher. At this point, we can get $0 per ton tax passed.
Why?
Well, let's go back. Let's talk about renewable energy for a second in a couple of concrete contexts. First, yeah,
Your wind farm.
Well, yeah. First, Hunter's right. Germany has what's called a feed-in tariff. That basically means there's a guaranteed government price for solar. So, you know, that's a structure that we tried.
Excuse me, not true. There is no guarantee for tariff in Germany for energy.
They got a feed-in tariff on.
It's a pure shift from tax dollars that are dedicated and taken from taxation on petroleum, on oil that is needed in industry, and from basically the tank we fill every day, which is absolutely dedicated to subsidize the feed-in for solar energy. So there's not a true guaranteed price. Very important.
Okay, but the government's dedicating money to that. We haven't done. We did that in a way with PURPA, Public Utilities Whatever Act.
Regulatory act.
But it basically was a kind of system where certain kinds of generation got guaranteed delivery onto the grid, and we.
In theory, the utility had to pay you a fair rate for anything you generated. In fact, the utilities pay you their take or pay coal contract price, what they pay to buy the coal.
I'm going back to Hunter. We go back to the early PURPA, which is similar. It was, without getting into detail, it ended up being a very, very high price for these resources. You know, you look at some of that California hydro, Vermont hydro, et cetera, those PURPA rates, those people were getting, and still are, not in California, in Vermont, getting 14, 15 cents a kilowatt hour today, which is way above market. So one of the questions you ask yourself is, to make this happen, how much above market are you willing to pay? That's a question. Secondly, there are throughout the U.S. now, I don't know what the number is, 28 give or take, renewable portfolio standards. The RPS in these states means that anyone who sells electricity to an end-use customer, some states that's the utility only, in some states they're competitive suppliers, anyone who sells electricity to an end-use customer must have a certain percentage of renewable energy included in the electricity they sell, and those RPSs are gradually increasing over time, so the amount of renewables required to be included in an electric supplier's portfolio goes up. In addition, a number of states, I don't know if California's one.
Yeah. Colorado's 30%.
But I was going to say, in addition, California does have an RPS. In addition to the RPS, a number of states have what's called, it goes under different terms, but it's a solar set-aside. So some portion of that renewable energy has to come from solar. And so in New Jersey, for instance, in New Jersey, the solar set-aside, they've basically financed this through the renewable energy credit market, through RECs. So basically, you put a solar system in New Jersey, you get about $500 or $600 per megawatt hour for the solar. So that's a huge, huge subsidy. Basically, the market price for electricity, I'll round it off at about $50. So you're talking 10 times that for solar. So there are some places that have these requirements. As a rule, this country, being a market-based economy, has chosen, for a variety of reasons, to use something like the RPS, which says the utility, the electricity supplier, has to have this much renewable, but then it's up to that company to go out and find someone who will deliver it, and they can do that competitively. So you use market mechanisms to satisfy the requirement. So
it's a very complex question, clearly.
So some states are doing as well as New Jersey, but
there's no silver bullet to the question.
It's going to come through RPS is probably more than putting a tax. It's going to be.
Yeah, I would agree with that. The likelihood of getting any kind of a BTU tax, a carbon tax, an energy tax, I think is dead in the water, which is why I've always been a fan of cap and trade. I thought we could get a market mechanism.
Right.
Now, that's fallen. although last week it came back alive. It's now being called the Frankenstein Act. They're putting bits from every energy, carbon, CO2, BTU piece of legislation for the last 10 years into one piece of legislation, and we'll see whether or not we can get a price on carbon. Maria Cantwell has this tax and dividend scheme. I don't like taxes because the Earth doesn't care how much revenue you're deriving from it. The Earth cares that you have a cap on carbon. Cantwell's scheme is that you cap it, auction off the right to emit, and then give that money back to all of you, so you all get a check for $7.50. I think that's a waste of the money. I would rather see the money be dedicated to renewables projects. But frankly, I don't care. We need a price on carbon, full stop, however we can get that. So please, any of you that are in this fight, don't oppose something because you think there's something better. Let's get a price on carbon.
And let me just let me clarify one thing. It's really important.
Yeah.
It goes to you particularly. You expressed some reservations, and I've heard this a lot, reservations that in this world of cap and trade and allowances, offsets, and whatever, you get these trading mechanisms and, sort of what's really happening. It's just, it's just the guys that know how to moving paper to their own benefit. So let me just try and address that very directly. When I talk about a project that creates carbon reductions, I'm talking about something very specific. I can take you to it and I can show you. I can take you to Greensburg, Kansas, and in Greensburg, Kansas, you'll see a 12.5 megawatt wind facility up and operating today that wasn't operating previously and wouldn't have operated.
That's the key point.
Wouldn't have gotten built but for our being able to find individuals and businesses that are paying for the carbon reduction that's produced by that specific project. So I can tie any offset I sell to anyone to a specific project that exists because we helped make it happen. And I'll just hand it to Margie.
It's one of the reasons we work with Native Energy.
And I want to say it's because that's because it's certified, and so that's why you want to ask any supplier, and both of us work with the same certification agencies because we want to sell quality offsets. We want it to make a difference. And I want to add one thing to this whole discussion, which is you kind of said this isn't going to be solved without renewable energy, and I'm going to say offsets as well. I think that's right. And so we have all these tools. We have government tools, which are like RPS's, Renewable Portfolio Standards, and climate legislation like cap and trade. But we also have you voting with your dollars and your feet. And so you have to move toward renewable energy with, hopefully, legislation backing up the minimum. But then you are going to need, as individuals and we as a society, to continue moving. Because government, very unlikely, is going to be able to set the level of carbon reduction standards this first round that we're really going to need to help reduce this problem really in the near term and long term.
How many of you have put renewables on your house?
Or how many of you buy renewables from your utility? Or through the renewable energy certificate. So you guys know what this means. It's a very important business thing.
That option was not available 5 years ago.
It wasn't. You have a question there.
Well, let me ask you a question, because I want to go back to the, I'm sorry to interrupt, go back to the compact fluorescent and the mercury, because it's an area about which, one of the many areas in which I'm ignorant, and it goes to the, how about LED lights and where that's going? So next generation of efficient lighting. Does that eliminate the mercury
In
issue?
California Lighting Technology Center at Davis, California, you can go on their website, get a list of all of the lighting options on the mercury and CFLs. The amount of mercury in a CFL for the amount of energy that it displaces that would otherwise have come from a coal plant, the coal plant emits more mercury. Mercury's bad, full stop.
Right. But
we need to eliminate mercury. But you will get less mercury in the environment and ambient mercury because the coal plant vaporizes it and it goes into fish and you eat it. The mercury in the CFL, if you dispose of it properly, does not get vaporized.
And
don't throw it in the trash can.
Thrown away properly. Hence, thrown away, disposed of properly.
And I believe LEDs have come a long way in the last few years. They're going to be the new light, and they don't have mercury.
It is an evolution. Again,
it is.
There's no silver bullet right now.
But it's better than coal.
We all are so familiar, so much hardwired to want instant gratification. And it's because we are hardwired that way, we want it tomorrow. We want it then.
Hey,
So,
I'm
I'm not
over
waiting, I
60.
want it tomorrow.
I'm over 60, I'm still waiting for a little gratification. So
but it's these things.
anytime, bring it on.
Very patient.